Good evening, I'm Evelina Leung in Hong Kong and welcome to View TV News. Coming up on tonight's show.
我宣布，港珠澳大桥正式开通。
Mainland Hong Kong and Macau authorities come together to launch the world's longest sea crossing bridge. Chief Executive Carrie Lam says the bridge means Hong Kong now has a more active role in China's development. And Hong Kong stocks take a tumble amid concerns over the US-China trade war and the mainland's economy. First up tonight, it's been 9 years in the making, but the world's longest sea crossing bridge is now officially open for business. President Xi Jinping and other top officials gathered in Zhuhai today to unveil the Hong Kong-Zhuhai-Macau Bridge. As Lydia Song reports, many of them say the project is an important step in developing the Greater Bay Area into an economic powerhouse.
Walking side by side, Chief Executive Carrie Lam accompanied President Xi Jinping as he opened one of the country's biggest projects. Also at the ceremony in Zhuhai were state leaders Han Zheng and Liu He, Macau's Chief Executive Fernando Choi, and former Hong Kong leaders Tong Chee-hwa and C.Y. Leung. Xi declared the bridge officially open for business.
我宣布，港珠澳大桥正式开通。
First, Vice Premier Han Zheng, who's also the top official for Hong Kong and Macau affairs, said Xi's attendance goes to show how much Beijing values the project.
作为粤港澳三地
This is the first major transport infrastructure jointly built and managed by Guangdong, Hong Kong, and Macau. The opening of the bridge will benefit trade and exchange between the three places. It will also boost development in the Greater Bay Area and enhance competitiveness of the Pearl River Delta. It has great significance in supporting Hong Kong and Macau's integration into national development.
Han also said he hopes the project is an example of how advanced China is when it comes to building bridges. Carrie Lam, meanwhile, thanked the central government's support and touted the integration.
It's beneficial to Hong Kong's change in roles from a connector to a more active participant, cooperating in development with Macau, Zhuhai, Zhongshan and Jiangmen. And that's why the SAR government is seizing the opportunity to propose the Lantau Tomorrow vision, creating a better future for Hong Kong.
Lam said the bridge sets the ideal stage for creating a so-called one-hour living circle between Hong Kong, Macau and Guangdong, now that the express rail started running and a new border control in Liantang will open next year. Towards the end of the ceremony, Han gestured to ask Lam to walk behind Xi when leaving the venue.
有一个说法
In a separate interview, Hong Kong's liaison office chief Wang Zhiming called it an accelerator for the development of Hong Kong and the Greater Bay Area. Wang also said the connection shows the solid foundation of one country and the benefits of two systems. Including its access roads, the sea crossing spans 55 kilometers. It's been plagued by several delays and billions of dollars in cost overrun. Hong Kong has invested at least $120 billion in the project. The bridge will be open to regular traffic tomorrow.
Cost overruns were among a handful of problems that emerged during the construction of the bridge, which has been long mired in controversy. To bring us up to speed on those concerns, our correspondent Joe Flynn was on the Chet Lapcock side of the bridge earlier today and sent us this report.
Hong Kong, of course, has long been known as a shipping port, but ironically, it does look like it could be the roads that are being built right now that could pave the way to the future. Of course, as far as this particular project is concerned, the idea is that the economic benefits it brings will help Hong Kong in the long term, both in terms of trade routes, as well, of course, as the tolls that the bridge itself will be allowed to charge drivers trying to use it. The project, though, has of course been mired in controversy during its construction At least 9 lives were lost on the Hong Kong side and a reported another 9 lives lost on the Chinese side, which really raises questions about the safety and sustainability of this project and the surrounding construction of it. That's not to mention the environmental impact it's having as well on local wildlife. The Chinese pink dolphin is supposed to have been dwindling in numbers already before this construction began, and since its construction, environmental concern groups like the WWF have said that they are really worried about what might happen to that particular species. Of course, all of that overlooks the symbolic significance of this bridge as well and what it could mean to a lot of Hong Kongers. The growing connection between the city and the mainland already looks to be mired in controversy, with things like the high-speed rail link creating questions around Chinese mainland's long-term plans for Hong Kong and its connections, and this only serves to extend those further. Exactly how Hong Kongers see that, when only a select few of people will be allowed to drive across this bridge, remains to be seen. Certainly as far as the day is concerned, it does look like interest is relatively limited. There's not an awful lot of people here taking pictures. Perhaps when the bridge opens tomorrow, that might change.
Meanwhile, Acting Chief Executive Paul Chan spoke about the government's proposal to develop Lantau today. Speaking at a forum co-hosted by the Financial Times, Chan said officials have great faith in the project. In an ironic twist, the event was supposed to be hosted by the publication's Victor Mallet, who was refused a renewal of his work visa. Another FT editor stepped in for him today. The Lantau development project, which includes building several man-made islands, has been criticized by some Hong Kongers as being too expensive and harmful to the environment, among other things.
Such an undertaking will bring with it diverse views throughout the community. That is both understandable and welcome. And constructive comments can help ensure its ultimate success. Rest assured, we believe in Lantau Tomorrow vision, in its long-term promise, that of ensuring a sustainable, thriving, and livable city for the people.
Lawmaker Ted Hui has denied all charges against him related to the phone snatching scandal at the Legislative Council back in April. Hui appeared at the Eastern Magistracy today. He pleaded not guilty to common assault, obstructing a public officer in the performance of a public duty, and obtaining access to a computer with a view to dishonest gain for oneself or another. The defense has been given time to look over the prosecution's evidence, including CCTV footage and news reports. Hui's been released on an $8,000 bail and will appear in court again on December 17th. Well, the MTR Shoddy Works hearing continued today, with the rail giant questioning the credibility of subcontractor China Technology. After the media broke the story back in May, the company accused the main contractor, Leighton Asia, of allowing steel bars to be cut short in the Hong Kong station. Today, MTR's lawyer questioned why did the subcontractor not report the problem earlier if the Shoddy Works were on a so-called industrial scale. The lawyer added the Shoddy Works was only spotted on 5 occasions back in 2015, and there's no evidence of non-compliance being widespread. He also pointed out MTR has been subjected to unfair and unsubstantiated media reports. And some good news for many construction workers in the city. Starting next month, they will be getting an average pay hike of 4.5%. However, the hike won't benefit those who specialize in formwork, concrete, and excavation. A pay freeze will be slapped on those who work in these areas. Coming up next, the latest from the world of business. It was a day to forget for regional markets, which sagged on concerns over the US-China trade war and China's slowing economic growth. Here in Hong Kong, the Hang Seng fell 3.08% to close at 25,346 points. Tech stocks dragged the market lower. It was down more than 4.5%. Index heavyweight Tencent had its worst day in 2 weeks. Across the border, the Shanghai Composite was down 2.26% to 2,594 points. Losses were posted across the board. Well, back here in Hong Kong, overall consumer prices rose 2.7% in September 2018 compared to the same month a year ago. The figure is also larger than the corresponding 2.3% increase in August. Netting out the effects of the government's one-off relief measures, the year-on-year increase in rate of the composite CPI in September was 3.1%. According to the government, this was due to a number of factors, including the upward adjustment in public housing rentals and increase in school fees. Well, Saudi Arabia will launch an investment conference on Tuesday as scheduled, despite a boycott over slain journalist Jamal Khashoggi. Hundreds of company executives are still expected to attend Future Investment Initiative, also known as the Davos in Desert. It's designed to attract billions of dollars of foreign capital to end Saudi dependence on oil exports. But more than 2,000 high-level speakers in the West withdrew from the event following an international outcry over Khashoggi's death. The case has strained ties between the West and the world's top oil exporter. Supermicro Computer will review its motherboards to check if there are any malicious computer chips. The fresh investigation follows a report by Bloomberg on October 4th. It cited 17 unidentified sources that claimed the company inserted tiny spy chips into its servers used by roughly 30 companies. Supermicro denied the allegations, saying it's practically impossible to insert such cheap chips. The report also said Apple found malicious chips in 2015. Apple CEO Tim Cook has called on Bloomberg to retract the story. Netflix will tap debt markets for the second time this year with a $2 billion higher interest bond offering. That's as the streaming video service looks for more money to buy new content and stay ahead of the competition. Conway Gittins reports.
Netflix is swimming in new subscribers and drowning in debt. In less than 3 years, Netflix has issued $7.5 billion in high-risk IOUs known as junk bonds, and that number is about to get even bigger. The streaming video service Monday announcing it's borrowing another $2 billion as it goes back to the bond market for the second time this year. Reuters debt market correspondent Kate Duguid.
Netflix at the moment is burning through a ton of cash. They're raising debt in order to fund things like content acquisition. So Netflix has started producing its own shows, which are very expensive, and continues to try to buy licenses for existing media. All that has meant that they've raised, nearly $10 billion, or more than $10 billion, in fact, since they went public in 2002.
So far, the borrowing and buying strategy is paying off. Netflix's subscriber numbers rose to 137 million worldwide last quarter as it looks to fight off challenges from Amazon Prime Video, Hulu, and a major new kid soon to hit the block, Walt Disney. But Netflix's heavy debt load is weighing on investor sentiment. Negative bets against Netflix bonds have more than tripled this year to an all-time high, according to data from IHS Markit. And Netflix's stock is down 22% from its all-time high in June, though still up a whopping 71% so far this year. Netflix is not alone in tapping the costlier side of the corporate borrowing market, with junk bond issuance at $1 trillion this year.
Because we're in a low-rate environment, investors are still on a hunt for yield, and one of the few places that's still available is in the junk bond market. So there's tons of demand for junk bonds like the one Netflix issued today.
When they bury me, it won't be in my backyard.
But buyers beware. If the economy starts to sputter, some fear all this risky lending could tumble, leaving investors with a big hole in their pockets.
Time for a break now, but do stay with us. Up next, former U.S. President Barack Obama hops on the campaign with a clear message to Americans: get out and vote.
infinite visions. View TV 6.
So, my favorite hotel in Paris is definitely Hotel Delia. But since I've discovered Trivago, I asked myself, why didn't I compare prices for this hotel before? It's so easy. Hotel Trivago.
No food.
Need some food.
No shelter.
I have to build up my shelter.
No fresh water.
There we go. I need this.
No tools.
This I can make use of.
No camera crew.
There's just not enough to gather here. There's not enough to hunt.
Just one man alone in the wilderness, surviving. Survivor Man. Wednesday night at 8:30 on View TV 6. The hottest local news, trending international stories, weekly review, topics that affect our communities, in-depth analyses and opinions. All that you need is in one place. Weekly review. Sunday night at 9 on View TV 6. From raw materials to finished products.
The world is a better place because of caramel.
Or inspiring details.
There's 700 different condiments here at Beauty Foods.
Wonderful processes.
All natural ingredients that was made with hand.
Get ready to witness the birth of your favorite nibbles. Food Factory, Sunday night at 7:30 on View TV 6.
In the enchanted land of Equestria, Unicorn Twilight Sparkle and her pony friends take on the adventure of a lifetime. Together they face exciting challenges that they've never had before and discover the elements of harmony with honesty, kindness, laughter, generosity, loyalty, and magic. The main six learn about the most powerful magic of all, friendship. My Little Pony, Friendship is Magic. Tonight at 7:30 on View TV 6.
Welcome back. In a move sure to ruffle feathers on the mainland, the U.S. has sent 2 warships through the Taiwan Strait. It's a second such operation in the last few months, despite strong opposition from Beijing. Our correspondent Samantha Faddis has the details from the capital.
Well, this latest manoeuvre by Washington yesterday certainly goes to show it's increasing the pace of strait passages, which of course risks heightening tensions with Beijing. But it will likely be viewed by a self-ruled Taiwan as a sign of support by the Trump administration. Of course, this comes against the backdrop of growing friction between Taipei and Beijing, which recognises the island as a renegade Chinese province and not a country. And last week raised concerns over US policy toward Taiwan with Defence Secretary Jim Mattis. Now, Washington has no formal ties with Taipei, but is bound by law to help it defend itself and is its main source of arms. And last time the US sailed through the strait in July, Beijing warned it not to jeopardise peace and stability. Beijing has become increasingly hostile toward Taiwan since Tsai Ing-wen swept to power in 2016 and has never renounced the use of force to bring the island under its control. It has also repeatedly said Taiwan is one of the most sensitive issues in its relationship with Washington. Both sides are also at odds over trade and military muscle flexing in the South China Sea.
Well, staying with Taiwan, a magnitude 6.0 earthquake rattled the coastal city of Hualien earlier today. The quake happened more than 100 kilometers off the coastal city, but no damage has been reported in the area so far. Witnesses in Taipei, however, reported they could feel buildings shake all the way in the capital. Well, moving away from the region, Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan says the killing of journalist Jamal Khashoggi was planned days in advance. He called it a savage murder. It comes as a senior U.S. official held talks with Saudi Arabia's Crown Prince in Riyadh, despite growing concern over the Saudis' role in the murder of the journalist. U.S. Treasury Secretary Steven Mnuchin, met Mohammed bin Salman on Monday. That's as U.S. President Donald Trump said he was still not satisfied with what he has heard from Saudi Arabia about Khashoggi's death in Turkey. Trump also made it clear he did not want to lose investment from Riyadh. Turkish officials say Khashoggi was murdered in the Saudi consulate in Istanbul after a visit on October 2nd. Former U.S. President Barack Obama has hit the campaign trail for Democrats in Nevada ahead of next month's midterm elections. Obama took a veiled swipe at Donald Trump, saying he believes in facts and accused Republicans of passing a tax cut they can't pay for. The former leader also had a warning for Americans not to be complacent.
This November's elections are more important than any I can remember in my lifetime, and that includes when I was on the ballot. That's saying something. Politicians say every time, oh, this is the most important election. This one's really that important. The stakes are high. The consequences of anybody here not turning out and doing everything you can to get your friends, neighbors, family to turn out, the consequences of you staying home would be profoundly dangerous.
Last month, the Vatican and China reached a controversial deal over the appointment of mainland bishops. It's a move aimed at narrowing the division between state-approved churches and underground Catholics loyal to the Vatican. But as Grace Lee reports, that line has blurred in recent years amid a growing acceptance of Beijing's controls.
This Gothic church in northern China was once the scene of a tense standoff between the ruling Communist Party and underground Catholics. In 1996, authorities surrounded the building and detained its bishop, who had been ordained by the Vatican in defiance of Beijing's own church run by the state. Years later, though its bishop is still missing, this parish, like many others, may be warming up to the Communist Party. It's a sign of a generational shift after more than 70 years of divide between underground congregations and China's official church. Reuters' Christian Shepherd has been following the story.
Catholic communities I spoke to in Hebei spoke about the increasing oversight from the Communist Party that is beginning to be accepted, even in communities that are not officially recognized by Beijing. They're beginning to have closer relationships with the Chinese government, and particularly in light of the deal with the Vatican, they're growing to accept that they may have to be subsumed by the Chinese Communist Party's system of oversight.
Last month, a secretive deal between Beijing and the Vatican moved to end their feud over who controls the church within Communist China. Key was a provisional agreement on the appointment of Chinese bishops, giving the Vatican a long-desired say in the process.
It used to be that the underground church in China and the Beijing-backed church were split very, very clearly, and they would have a very antagonistic relationship. But nowadays, there are people who tend to sort of move between the two worlds. There'd be some priests who previously were considered underground, but then later would be willing to join the Patriotic Association because they felt that it would allow them more freedom and allow their congregation more freedom.
Still, critics say the deal is a sellout to the Communist Party, and it's still not clear what it might mean for China's 30 or so underground bishops. But according to experts, the acceptance of government-backed bishops by the Holy See is already starting to blur lines. More bishops are now seen as both Vatican and Beijing approved.
And now it's time for sports. Ahead of Juventus Champions League match and Manchester United later, Cristiano Ronaldo has spoken publicly for the first time about allegations of rape against him. Speaking before facing his former club, Ronaldo told reporters that he had a clear conscience and that he would await the results of an ongoing investigation into the issue. Catherine Mayorga has alleged that the former Real Madrid player raped her at a Las Vegas hotel back in 2009. Ronaldo denies the charges.
Didn't listen what I say. I'm happy, man. This is not... We did the statement 2 weeks ago, if I'm not wrong. So I'm glad. Of course, I'm not gonna lie on this situation. I'm very happy. My lawyers, they are confident, and of course I am too. So the most important that I enjoy the football, I enjoy my life.
Arsenal made it 10 wins in a row in all competitions after beating Leicester City 3-1 in the Premier League. It took the Gunners a while to get going, though. The visitors Leicester took the lead in the 31st minute when Hector Bellerin fired into his own net. Mesut Ozil leveled on the stroke of halftime. And that's it for now. Good night.
Coming up next, My Little Pony Friendship is Magic Season 2.
There's a saying that goes, all you need